Welcome to Talking Points on Deen TV with Stephen Taylor. It's good to have you along. Thank you very much for taking the time out. And of course, you're more than welcome to interact and get involved with the show via social media. Facebook and Twitter is just simply at Stephen Taylor SA. And of course, well, that's where you can find me on Instagram and Snapchat and all those things. There's so many platforms these days, I can't even keep up. It's just at Stephen Taylor SA on all my platforms, really. And it's good to have you along. So today we're speaking about something which is very close to my heart, but we'll get to that in more detail. Of course, we're talking about rape and females and abuse in our country, and it's nice for me to have a guest who not only goes out and does charity work, but is a personal trainer as well. Joey, how are you, my friend?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me, Stephen.
Thank you for coming in, man. So, wow, if I can look at your CV, the stuff that you do, I mean, you're a personal trainer. Then when you in your private time, you go out and do soup kitchens, and you're helping with, walk a mile in her shoes. Just amazing stuff, man. Tell me about you, where you grew up firstly. Let's get to know Joey Koffman.
That's correct.
I thought I was coughing then, but no, that's your surname. How you doing, buddy? Are you well?
That's my surname. I'm very well. Once again, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you.
A little bit about myself. I grew up on the southern suburbs, so I'm a local boy, and spent most of my childhood years in a place called Steamberg Retreat. After that, moved to Mitchell's Plain, and after that, moved to the northern suburbs to a place called Goodwood.
All right. Yeah.
And soon after that, found myself in Sea Point, where I happened to work as well at a place called Virgin Active as a personal trainer.
Nice. Man.
So that's my full time.
So tell me about, before we get to the event that you've got doing, the campaign that you've got going on, tell me about some of the other charity work that you have been involved in.
Okay, I'm involved with an organization called The Art of Living, who's an international organization, and they're involved in a lot of service projects. Through The Art of Living, I'm involved with an organization called Ladles of Love, and basically we serve the community, the homeless people in particular. So 3 times a week on a Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, we've got a whole lot of volunteers that come together, and we provide food to the homeless people. So people come from all over the city of Cape Town who live on the streets, and we feed them.
Is there a lot? Have you found that there's a lot that come?
We serve on average on a Tuesday night roughly 150 to 200 people.
That's the same people coming each week?
Same people, that come every Tuesday, and the same on a Thursday and on a Saturday. So that gives you an idea how many people are out there living on the streets and are really actually dependent on the soup kitchens providing, food for them on those days.
So is this run by an organization? Is this run just by yourselves? How do you fund that? How do you keep it sustained?
Yeah, the soup kitchen is done by Ladles of Love, and the money to buy the actual soup and the food is generally sponsored by individuals. So we rely on individuals to donate or to sponsor money. And from that money, we provide the food and the bread that we provide to the homeless people.
So if people want to get involved, if they think that this is something they want to get involved in, is there a Facebook page, a Twitter page that people can get involved, or can they come and visit? Can they come and volunteer? Can I come and volunteer? Can I come along, or how does it work?
100%. Anyone is welcome to come and help. We've got a Facebook page, which is Ladles of Love. So people can find us on Facebook.
How do you spell that? I just want to write it down quickly.
So Ladles is LADLES of love. Ladles of Love.
Ladles of Love. What is ladles? What does ladles mean?
Ladles are basically these big spoons that you dish the soup with, yeah. Oh, that's what they are.
That's right, yeah.
So we call ourselves Ladles of Love, and anyone's welcome to come and help. On a Tuesday evening, we at 5:30 in St. George's Mall, and we're right opposite Food Lovers Market.
Okay.
So anyone's welcome to come and help on a Tuesday evening, or even on a Thursday. On a Thursday evening, we're at the night shelter, the Haven Night Shelter in Greenpoint.
And what time is that?
It's at 5:30 in the evening as well on a Thursday.
Okay.
And on Saturdays at 12 noon, we're in Ruland Street, right opposite the carpenter shop.
All right.
So
does the gun go off? Does the noon gun still go off on a Saturday?
Not on a Saturday.
In the week?
In the week,
because
yes.
I was going to say, because that could be quite cool if the gun goes off at 12 and then okay, it's time for soup.
Yes.
So you serve soup right through the year, whether it's winter or summer?
Right through the year, in particular during winter time, because
it's coming up to winter.
Yes, the soup is warm, and it's really nice for people who don't have a warm meal, to come out and
That's
have
a traditional vegetable soup, right?
vegetable soup, yes.
I like that, hey? Wow, that's nice. So tell me about walking a mile in her shoes. You're doing the event in Cape Town, in Gugulethu, and Sea Point. Obviously, we want to take it on a national level. Tell me about how you got involved with that and what made you want to start up something like this.
The idea basically came to me. I remember I was on social media the one day, and I was just bombarded with all this information about what's happening with abuse against women, and the response that generally came from the general public is one of despondence and fear and anger. And it really hit me, because I thought to myself, surely something can be done. And prior to that, I had seen on television that this Walk a Mile in the Shoes was hosted in Canada. And basically the idea is that men are encouraged to stand up to not only create awareness about what's happening to women, but also to try and do something to break the cycle of violence against women. And I thought about it, and I thought to myself, how amazing would it be as a man if you could physically demonstrate your support for women who obviously are being targeted, I think, a lot in society as victims, to come together and say, how can we contribute toward bringing an end to what's happening to women? So the idea was with me, and I thought about it, and I decided to speak to a very close friend of mine whose name was Bianca about the idea, and she was like, that's fantastic, let's do it.
We'll get on a bit later. Do you think there's not enough being done? I mean, there are so many organizations that are, standing up against rape, but is that all it is, basically standing up? I mean, do you think that stuff is changing, or do you think that women are still suffering on a day-to-day basis?
I believe, based on the statistics, and I'm not an expert, but throughout the last couple of months, we've been exposed to a lot of real statistics. So based on the statistics, it seems like it's actually on an increase, which makes me wonder if our current plan of trying to address the issue is maybe not helping that much in a way that we wanted to help. And what's very effective about this campaign in particular is that we're not just about creating awareness, but actually getting involved in programs to help address the root causes of what drives a person to commit violence, to assault another person. So our vision is really to not just be vocal about the issue of violence against women, but to look at what can we do to stem the tide, and also to stop the continuous flow of violence against women, and violence for that matter in society.
So does your campaign, does that bring in rape? Does that bring in domestic abuse? Does that bring in abuse, assault, violence? Does it bring in all of that?
The campaign focuses on all forms of violence, all forms of gender-based violence, sexualized violence. So no form of violence is excluded in this campaign. However, for this campaign, our focus is solely on women and how violence affects women in society. We do hope to, in the future, as we carry on, to address other forms of violence, because there's so many forms of violence, and we believe you can't exclude one and just focus on the other. And I think that's probably where, as a society, we've maybe, not gone about addressing violence in a way that it's most effective. We believe that we should actually collaborate as different organizations, as a society, as the average person in the street, as a community, to come together and talk about, what really drives an individual to commit violence, because we don't believe it's something that's inherently part of us as human beings. So
we live in a society where, sex sells. I mean, every movie, every series, everything that you watch, every magazine, whatever you look at, I mean, it's just about sex. I mean, how can we not go outside and want to, then we look at women and think, that's a problem, because I mean, we should be limiting the amount of sex and stuff like that on our TV, and parents, I think, don't play a big enough role in their children's lives, and that's why the children grow up to do some crazy things. And I think it is sad as well that all men are classed as abusers and rapists and stuff like that. What is your thought on that?
Well, first of all, we agree that more should be done to sort of not only police but supervise what young kids are exposed to in society. And we believe if you're not old enough to make an informed decision, you shouldn't be exposed to the kind of things that make you have a almost skewed perception of sexuality, which is very important in society, as how we view the issue of sex and how we relate to sex. So we do believe that, we should have more stringent strategies in place to not allow our young kids to have access to pornography, for instance, at such a young age. These days, if you've got a mobile phone, you can access pornography.
That's right.
And we believe that's one area that we need to look at as a society. With regard to males always being highlighted as, the bad guys, we do also believe that when a person commits an act of sexual violence, often research has shown that often that same person has at some stage in his life been a victim of sexual violence. So what we aim to do with this campaign is to address the issue of men not really having a platform to actually share their experiences, share their traumas that they experience with sexualized violence. So there are so many issues that needs to be addressed with regard to how men fit into the cycle of sexual violence in society and not ignore the fact that men do often also are victims of sexual violence.
Does mental health play a role in, people being raped or being, abused or abusers? Does mental health play a role in what you're doing as well?
I'm not an expert, so I cannot comment on that, but I would imagine that because I firmly believe, and this is something which is very near and dear to my heart, we aren't born as violent people.
No, we're not.
We're not born
as racist either. It all comes,
So I believe somewhere along the line, we get exposed to things that change who we are inside. And if we don't have a space where we can deal with the trauma that we go through as human beings, as individuals, then I believe in the future we will have an outlet which is not acceptable, and this is where violence comes in. So whether that is psychological, I can't say, like I said, I'm not an expert, but I could imagine, if you go through some form of trauma, it would have a psychological effect on you as an individual. So yes, maybe we can say that it does affect you psychologically. There's a mental issue involved in how people express the trauma that they have gone through. So it's important that we address those issues, I believe.
Joey, thank you, man. We'll get Bianca on in a moment, but is there a Facebook page where people can, find out more about what you're doing and get involved?
Yes, we do have a Facebook page. Our Facebook page is Walk a Mile in Her Shoes, Cape Town, South Africa. So please follow us on Facebook. You can also follow us, our hashtag on Walk a Mile Cape Town, Walk a Mile in Her Shoes, Cape Town, and we welcome everyone to join in on the campaign. The more, the merrier.
Oh, Joey, thanks, buddy. Thanks for coming in, man. And I'll take you up on that personal training session, man.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in. Joey Koffman.
Joey Koffman.
Is that right?
That's correct.
It's Talking Point with Stephen Taylor. Thank you, Joey, for coming in. You're more than welcome to get in touch with the show and get involved with the show. Please feel free to drop us those tweets, drop us those Facebook messages as well. Have you been a victim of abuse, of rape, or stuff like that? Have you been affected by that? Please drop us those tweets at Stephen Taylor SA on Facebook and Twitter. We'll be back with Bianca to chat more about walking a mile in her shoes, CT, next right here. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Talking Point with Stephen Taylor here on Deen TV. It's good to have you along. Joined in the studio here by Bianca. Bianca, hello, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I forgot your surname. I'm forgetting my name and surname, and it's just live TV. It's cool, man. But anyway, Bianca, welcome. Good to have you here. Of course, you're also involved with a walk a mile in her shoes, CT. Wow, so many big words today, hey? Yeah. So tell me, you're a student social worker.
Yes.
Tell me about that, and tell me about you, like where you grew up. Are you from Cape Town?
So I was born in Joburg, and since I was a tiny child, I've always wanted to help people. That's my passion. And growing up, I always had this desire to just make a difference. And I moved to Cape Town to study at UCT, and I did a BA. And I graduated, and I started working in print production. But I always had this desire that I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I thought I could do more. So I quit my job and I went back to varsity and I studied social work.
Wow.
And I'm in my 4th year now, honours, and I'll graduate at the end of the year.
So how old are you now, Melis?
26.
So you took the leap at like 22? Wow, that's great.
Feels like yesterday.
So tell me about, what a social worker, what are you wanting to achieve and what aspect? There's different aspects to being a social worker, right?
Yeah, so I'm studying at UCT, and part of the social work degree is that there's a lot of practical involved, which is what I think is one of the most wonderful parts of the degree. So it's very similar to psychology, however, we get to do our practical during our studying times. So from second year, I was thrown in the deep end, and I worked at a variety of different placements. So I've worked at Grooterskie Hospital in the neuro ward, and I worked at Eric Miles Cheshire Home.
Okay.
And now I've been at Heatherdale Children's Home in Athlone for abused and neglected kids for almost a year and a half. Wow. And I run therapy with the kids, and I do group therapy. And last year I did a extreme makeover on the home, and I raised R500,000. That was really cool, unexpected, but
similar to the international one, huh?
Yeah,
Have you seen that show?
It wasn't as big, but yeah, I aim high, that's me. So yeah, that was lovely. So that's what I do, and plan to go on to do my clinical masters in social work and eventually open a private practice and just go to a whole lot of different NGOs and help them, because there are all these different NGOs, but people don't understand how NGOs are really battling. There's no capacity. So I hope to develop a brand that can go into the NGOs and kind of bring them together so we can make a stronger force.
Yeah, but the problem with NGOs is that they want to have a CEO, they want to have their own money. It's become a money-making thing. That's the problem.
Disagree.
So in a way, obviously your heart might be in the right place, but other people's hearts might not. So that might be the reason why they wouldn't want to merge with you, because of the fact that they want that funding, they want to do what they want to do, and that CEO person wants to get paid at the end of the month. So,
well, Heatherdale, where I work, they are such a strong group of people. I mean, they've been open for 85 years, and there's such a lack of capacity. They only have one residential social worker and 55 children, and thankfully we are all placed there. So it's me and another student from UWC, and we assist, and we don't get paid. So, but even though there are 3 of us, and there's now a substance abuse social worker, the kids don't get as much input as they need, and the finances, unfortunately, the CEO is stuck with going on the board of where does the money go, and they have to prioritize, and from the outside I can understand and respect that, but I actually had a similar view until I was actually put into that environment, and you actually start to see how difficult it is and where do they prioritize. We live a life where we get to choose what we have for dinner. These kids don't always have food on their plates.
What ages are there?
Age 3 to 19, boys and girls, and yeah, they are abused or neglected, and they can't be adopted because it's not an adoption center. Their parents are either unfit to look after them or they're in prison, so it's a waiting game, and they focus on family reunification, which means reintroducing the child back into the home and working with the family to make it a healthier lifestyle for that child. So a lot of the kids land up staying at the home until they're 18, and then they go into the real world, and some of them get taken back to their families.
So tell me about some of the experiences that you've experienced, some of the things that you've seen or gone like, wow, okay, this is why I got into doing this, to make a difference.
Well, with social work, I must say, people don't do it for the money. We really don't. It's a calling, and we work with the groups that are really in our country dealing with poverty, and that is actually which links to our campaign, because it's all interlinked in the end of the day. And the kids that I work with, I've seen cases that often I go home and I cry, and I'm like, I feel like I'm in a movie, and it's hard not to get emotionally attached and to lie in bed at night with my blanket thinking about some of the kids and worrying. But even violence and sexualized violence and all these things play into the children's home as well. And that is what is, like Joey was saying, we're not focusing on women. This is a focus on women, but we're using it as a platform to say, hey, gender-based violence against kids, and also the perpetrator. You guys were talking about the perpetrators as men. Most of the time, it's not just men. You get woman on woman, you get gang violence. So that's something else we want to draw to people's attention, because, the lay's person out there who isn't in the social work or the psychology field, hasn't had the experience. That's what we want to raise those questions. Use your voice. No question is stupid. Ask that question, and that's how we engage and we learn.
So tell me about Walk a Mile in Her Shoes. CT, of course, you are involved with that. The event's taking place on the 21st of May. That's in Sea Point, and Guguletu. I'll definitely be there to support that. Tell me, how can people, find out more information? How can they get involved? Stuff like that.
So as Joey said, it was his idea, and he approached me, and we make quite a cool team. And we wanted to create a an event, but at the same time we also wanted, if you go into our Facebook page, you'll see we said it's awareness. So, you know, even if there's 100 people on the 21st of May, that's not our main goal. Our main goal is to open the doors for intervention and discussion and opening people's minds, because, you know, we live in a society where a lot of people live in their bubbles, and that's fine. You know, we all feel safe in our bubbles, but people often sit there and say nothing's changing in this country, the government's not acting up, the cops aren't doing their job. But from my perspective, we need to come together. It's not.
People need to be proactive as well. And you know, you can't wait for government, you can't wait for the cops. You need to be doing something as well.
It's not their problem, it's our problem.
Yes.
We want to do away with this us and them.
Yeah.
We want to do away with, they need to fix that. Joey and I are very much focusing on unity and bringing, that's why we're doing Googs and we're doing Sea Point. We are encouraging people to mix it up. If you're from Googs, maybe come to Sea Point. If you're from Sea Point, go to Googs.
Yeah.
And you know, we hope to do another event, whether it's Walk a Mile in Her Shoes or our own brand next year, and do one in every single location and mix it up and say, come together regardless of your gender, regardless of your age, regardless of your race or your religion. You know, it's a time for us to stand together as brothers and sisters of this country and actually stand up. And you know, the cases recently, Sinkolo and Francesca, I think that really shook our city, because it happens every day. That's the sad thing, is that it was in the media and then everyone got quite freaked out. But I see this all the time. I see
Another one, in Boysen, was it, in Bredasdorp? That was also another one. Yeah. But I see Bredasdorp's quite a lot of things happening there. So they obviously. You
know how it works. It's sensationalism. The news enjoys it. They're like, let's keep on this whole sexualized violence thing. But they don't know that it's happening all the time, every day, in the community down the road, in the richest house down the road. And a lot of people say, oh no, it's not going to happen to me. You know, I live in a middle class society. It happens to the richest, the poorest. It doesn't matter what race or color you are. It's our problem. It's not a problem for the poor, or a problem for someone else. And
what's your goal from the campaign? What are you wanting to?
Well, open those doors for discussion. You know, we have had kind of a few political things going on, because one of the things about the guys who started this campaign was they wanted to, it was symbolic to put on high heels and walk a mile in a woman's shoes. And in our country, we've had a lot of political debates around this. Like, someone says you can't walk around in people's high heels and think you're going to know what it feels like to be a woman who's been raped. And we respect that. But at the same time, we've had guys say, I'm not gay, I'm not going to wear high heels. So we're finding that we're opening this, we actually enjoying the fact that we're saying, okay, bring your voices, let's talk about this. What is masculinity? What is power? And you know, people say, oh, people have sex or they rape because they, you know, people make assumptions maybe because they are aroused. It comes down to power. It comes down to the patriarchal in our society. It comes down to all sorts of things which a lot of us don't know about. So we want to get to the grassroots. We want to say, okay, let's stop pointing at the perpetrators and saying they must go and sit in jail and suffer, and rather say, what led this person to behave like this? What happened to this person?
It's a social ill,
We don't justify the behavior, but we're saying, let's stand together to understand how we can change the perpetrator's action, understand what they're going through and change it from the down up, instead of going from the up down and putting them in prisons. You know, it's like the chicken hen. And these people are also people. You know, I believe, and some people get offended by this, but I believe that you're not born a bad person. And, you know, I don't think anyone is a bad person. I think people choose bad behaviors. And perhaps that is what my message is that, you know, we all very judgmental. That's our society today. Prejudice, it just comes out of us naturally. No one's not racist. No one's not going to judge. But we need to take a deep breath and think before we act on that judgment, or just be aware of the judgment and not get angry at ourselves for it. And be more humane. And, you know, let's come together. That is our message. Come together and stand up. And, you know, the walk was supposed to be initially men walking. And Joey and I were like, no, we want everyone there, whether it's children, non-gender conforming, women. And we have had a large response from women, which is what we anticipated, which is ironic because we're trying to target the men. But we want everyone to come together. And another thing we've been doing is even just a form of awareness. People are very busy. They don't have the time. We have a photograph, which you've done, which you're going to upload on Twitter.
Yes.
Is people write a quote. So perhaps you say, my name is John and I stand up for the protection of women, or whatever you think. We're trying to get people's own voices, and then the hashtag, and then they take a selfie, which people do all the time, right? They have time for that. And upload it on Facebook, upload it on your social media, and hashtag us to spread that word, to bring around awareness.
Here's mine.
Yeah. So, you know, it takes 2 minutes of someone's day, and how often people are taking selfies today. So it's about saying, okay, we respect you can't come to the walk, but just stand up. Tell us what you think.
Bianca, thank you very much for your time. And give us the Facebook information once again.
So it's Walk a Mile in Her Shoes, Cape Town, South Africa. That's our Facebook page. And then we have 2 events on those pages. It's Walk a Mile in Her Shoes Sea Point, Walk a Mile in Her Shoes Gugulethu, and they're on the page. You can see our hashtag, it's Walk a Mile in Her Shoes CT. And if you put that into Twitter, you'll find some tweets, or on Facebook.
Talking Point with Stephen Taylor here on Deen TV. Thank you very much for tuning in. And I encourage you to get involved with the show, to be a part of the show, because we'd like to read out some of those tweets and those Facebook messages. Let me know where you're watching from. I know that we broadcast across Southern Africa, Nigeria, Kenya. Let me know where you are watching from. Drop me a tweet, drop me a Facebook message at Stephen Taylor SA. That is where you can find me on Facebook and Twitter. Otherwise, use the hashtag Talking Point with Stephen Taylor. And I'll pick up those tweets and Facebook messages, and we will read those out on the show. Of course, a sad couple of weeks it has been with Prince passing away. Of course, you might see that I'm wearing my purple today in support of Prince. Purple Rain, massive song and one of my favorite songs. So sad news that came out, and of course the world in mourning following Prince's passing. Listen, have yourself an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you again next week, same time, same place. Talking Point with Stephen Taylor signing out. Thank you to Lani and my production team. Have a good one. Take it easy. Bye-bye.